Today, I want to pose a question to you guys. Was there ever an anime character that you initially hated at first? And then it ended up being one of your favorite characters in the entire show. Yes, that definitely happened to me, and coincidentally, it was with Bakugo. So today we're going to be talking about that a little bit, and the reasons why, because I feel like you might find them a little bit ironic. The reason I say ironic is because there were a lot of things that I didn't like about Bakugo. I feel like in the beginning, it goes to say that most people don't find his character very likable, and they just genuinely, he doesn't give off a welcoming
Die!
vibe. But other than that, I feel like his arc was pretty good. But the problem is I hadn't ended up liking him till way later in the series. And it was after I realized a few things about him that I may have found in myself. Now, a common reason I feel like people may hate Bakugo or hate on him initially is because he is a little bit selfish or self-obsessed, some would say. He also has a lot of audacity, and some people sometimes don't like that. I kind of talked about this earlier in my last video, which was about gym anxiety and not caring what other people think, and I also did bring up Bakugo. But I thought this would be an interesting episode to do because I personally have some lore with this character. When I started watching My Hero Academia, how much I disliked this character. It was with a passion.
Now, if this wasn't already a foreshadowing of the traits that I shared with Bakugo, then I don't know what is.
Let me tell you, I genuinely would tell my partner, I do not like this character. He's not going to become one of my favorites. And my partner was kind of like, hold out, see, whatever. He had watched it before me. Later on, to spoil something for you, I definitely ended up liking his character. I love the arc that he goes through, and Bakugo is the G. So that being said, I want to just jump right into what made his character unlikable to me personally that I found out later was very relatable and may have been some traits that I was willing to or not willing to face in my own life. The first one being, he definitely bottled up his emotions. If there's one thing you know about Bakugo Katsuki, it's that he is emotionally constipated through most of the series. And he doesn't really reach out, let his feelings out, or do any of that nonsense. And most of the time, he also shows that he doesn't like to be touched or people in his personal space or any of that, except for Izuku Midoriya. But otherwise, I feel like I definitely related with this on his character. One of the things I realized was I was like, oh, he was so crabby. He's so self-centered. I don't like his character. All he cares about is him. And that's true to a certain extent, but as his character develops later on, I was still being like that, and I honestly would reflect on his character later on and feel like that was very wrong about his character. Now, a person who genuinely thinks about this as bad things in someone probably isn't able to commit to their own goals, and that's why they see it as a bad trait. Now, at first, he was definitely selfish, and he had to learn that he could count on his team and whatnot to help him. But these are things I later admired about his character because he has the drive, consistency, and he was able to pour into himself so that he can go out and do things for others. Now, I'm a big weightlifter, as you know, and I love going to the gym. This is an outlet I feel like I related on with Bakugo. A little bit to say about me is that I have many Aries placements in my chart. If you know, you know. If you're into astrology. If you're not, it basically means I have a lot of fire in me, and I can get fired up real fast. My partner knows this too. The people who love and care about me also know this, and they are fully accepting of it. I definitely had to work on triggers and whatnot to calm down and make myself a more likable person. But that didn't mean I had to make myself more palatable. That just meant I had to be considerate of others around me, as a lesson that Bakugo also learns in the series. Now, there's benefits to this too. You also end up getting more help when you become more like that and are able to be a little bit more in the receiving. But to touch back on the gym, I definitely use this as an outlet at a time in my life where I was really avid on my weight loss journey. I didn't even go into it really as a weight loss journey. I went into it because I had a lot of anger stored up inside me that I needed to let out in a healthy way. And one of the healthy ways I found that being was weightlifting, particularly. I started out on the treadmill and kind of ventured into the weightlifting room, which you guys know if you are on my channel. I had a lot of experience in that before, so I kind of knew what I was doing. But it was nervous for me to go back in there. Having that anger to let out in the gym definitely helped. I feel like a lot of us can relate because we're out there slaying our demons in the gym as per usual. That's kind of what a lot of people do it for. But this was something that I feel like you could say Bakugo also did. He definitely conquered his demons through fighting, whatnot, technical things, and strategy, learning things at school, and using his power. Very explosive power, obviously, to go with the very explosive temper. But he was able to let his frustrations out in that kind of way. And it was probably healthier than the way he did it when he was younger. Yeah. That's not as great, but we all find our outlets that help us, and his character definitely found that is one of them. Now, the other thing that I feel like I could relate to him on was one of the things about bottling up your emotions is that your head gets so crowded and overwhelmed with these emotions you're bottling up and not letting out that you tend to be a little crabby. You tend to be a little unlikable, right? And it can come off as very selfish if you are like that, because you're kind of treating other people badly because of it, which is something that I feel like Bakugo also learns in the series, is that you tend to treat other people badly if you don't let your emotions out and actually dispose of them in some healthy way. And it can't just be through going to the gym. You have to kind of let them out in other ways too. And he ends up softening a little throughout the series, and you definitely see him, especially at the ending, he's able to let go and express feelings a lot more than he did before. Now, I feel like as I was going through my gym journey and also watching My Hero Academia while I was doing it, because that's when I started it, I definitely experienced this. It was a huge lesson that I thought was canon because it went hand in hand with the show I was watching. Now, it wasn't necessarily Bakugo's character that made me realize that I had this bad tendency of bottling up my feelings, but his character definitely helped, and it's one of the reasons I actually ended up liking his character later, is that we kind of had the same struggle. You know, he kind of knew what I was going through. So to say about that is that you don't really want to bottle them up and just go to the gym to let them out. You kind of want to be able to have other people to lean on or be able to show them in the moment. It's not a bad thing to cry. It's not a bad thing to say what you're thinking. And that's something that I feel like Bakugo was ironic because he did that a lot. He would say what he was thinking a lot about other things, but he could not do it when it came to his feelings. And wow, did I relate to that. I really had some bottling up tendencies that I would wait till they just genuinely exploded. And that's not the healthy way to do it, if you didn't know that already. But I realized this was one of the things that I didn't like about him that I ended up kind of liking, because then he was able to work through it, and we kind of both went on that journey together as I was watching the show. So I thought that was very interesting. I also touched upon before the air of being in the receiving. Bakugo, I feel like, wasn't really in this. He wanted to go, he wanted to learn things and everything, but as you go through the series, he genuinely, you can see that if it wasn't like a teacher or someone who he thought he would benefit from, he didn't think he had anything to learn about those people. And his classmates tended to prove him wrong a lot of the times with this. He genuinely found out that when he would rely on his classmates and do collaboration with them and be more in the receiving of their help, their knowledge, and everything like that, that it made life a little easier for him. I definitely related on this. Being a Leo moon, I'm an independent person, and I definitely would only really listen to things that I thought I was going to get knowledge from, but then not really reflect on things that people would tell me, that friends would tell me, or whatnot, because they could genuinely have valuable information. And that was something that I learned was also being in an era of receiving, was being able to take what things like, I guess, what is it called? input people are giving on you to yourself and kind of filtering it, not really believing what everybody says. That's not what I'm saying to do. I'm just saying that take it with a grain of salt and be like a little reflective on it. And that's something that's helped me a lot when it comes to social skills and anxieties and stuff like that. I definitely learned that I could make myself a little bit more easier to be around without making myself watered down or palatable. And that's just kind of going to give you some things back from your friends too. They will also be willing to be there for you more. And asking and taking help are definitely things that I had to learn that I feel like I related to with Bakugo's character a lot. I hated asking for help, hated taking help. I wanted to know that I had everything under control, and I had a real bad fear of not having everything under control. I feel like Bakugo also had that fear, but like I said, later learned that that is not a great fear to have, because genuinely you will run into it later on down the road because you are going against it. If that kind of makes sense, what I'm trying to say here is that the more you want to control things and handle everything yourself and have that fear of reaching a point where you can handle it all yourself, the more you're going to run into that point where you can't handle it all yourself. And I definitely had this block kept coming up in front of my face over and over again until I learned that lesson. And I still struggle with it to this day. I feel like that makes Bakugo a very relatable character for me. So these are some of the points that I wanted to bring up in this shorter video on how I at first hated his character and then grew to actually liking him a lot. And the arc that he went through, I feel like, is a crazy good arc. I feel like he definitely had some personality changes that I love to see as a person who also came from that kind of personality, if you will. And I genuinely learned a thing or two as we went on that journey together, like I said. And as I went through my fitness journey and whatnot while watching My Hero, and definitely took into consideration these traits and how I could work on them myself. So, if you like this video, please subscribe, give it a like, and definitely comment why or what character you really didn't like in anime at first, or in an anime that you watched at first that you ended up kind of really liking later. If it's about Bakugo, that's awesome. But if it's a different one, I still want to hear it, because this was something that I thought was really interesting that I went through, and I wanted to kind of put that out there. And I thought that it really showed like how you can learn things from animes and shows in general. And if you're really willing to do the self-reflection, you can actually have your own changes, and shows can actually change you, which is what this whole Gains and Growing Pains channel is about. Anime, life, and gym in general. And if you like those concepts and you vibe with me, definitely hit the subscribe and join the community. Come on in. We are always accepting new students here at the UA Academy. Okay, that was kind of corny. I'm gonna go now after that. Keep smashing your goals and doing the best you can at life. Give yourself a round of applause today if you haven't, because you're doing great, and I will see you in the next video.